alchemy cards that you should know before you start building decks in Timeless. This is the card we're going to start with, and I think I'm going to use it to bait the thumbnail. It's a generically powerful removal spell. Let's read it real quick. For 1 white mana at instant speed, exile target non-token artifact, creature, or enchantment, so it hits multiple types. That player puts a random creature card with lesser mana value from their library onto the battlefield tapped. So this is clean removal for any 1-drop, such as your pushed Ragavan creatures, your Modern Horizons kitties, but it can also hit something like a Pithing Needle or a Vexing Bauble, which I think is really strong, and a lot of combo decks, especially in Timeless, lean on this. This is a classic 4 copies in Show and Tell in Timeless, where they're using it to remove sideboard hate primarily, but can also remove a creature that's putting a lot of pressure on them, like a Ragavan or a Psychic Frog in a pinch. And it's a generically strong and flexible card that I do think would be played 4 copies in Vintage in the kind of deck that is playing Swords to Plowshares and maybe reaching for Portable Hole as well. If your deck can play those cards, I think it would also probably lean for this if there was a paper magic equivalent to it. Also, little pet peeve of mine, some people like to say, oh, these are fake cards. They have digital randomness in this. This card says random in it, so I don't want to play in it. Here's the exact functionally the same card that I rewrote above my head. That player reveals cards from the top until they reveal a creature card with mana value less and put it onto the battlefield and put the rest on the bottom in a random order. That works in Paper Magic. That is a functionally identical card. It is also random. Believe it or not, if you play a card game, you are playing probability with pretty pictures on the cards. It's all math, it's all randomness. I don't know why some people really dislike the digital randomness and how some of these cards can say the word random on them. Anyways, Patriar's Humiliation is another cool 1-mana removal spell I wanted to give a shout. It's a reference to the classic card Humility, of course, and white has had similar effects before, but not for 1 mana and not at instant speed. The closest paper card that exists is Unable to Scream, which is a very recent print, but this has shown playability in Eternal formats, including Timeless. So here's the instant speed version of it. Just the catch here is that it doesn't always remove the creature. It always removes the abilities, which is very strong, but you do need upward state of your own to actually remove the creature. But still, if your opponent has a Tameo in play and you point this at it, it just becomes an 0-3 without any abilities, and that's it's practically removing the card, right? So it gets you 90% of the way there. Thing is, this just doesn't really see play because this is a format with Swords to Plowshares and then the aforementioned Fragment Reality, and then you could also play Prismatic Ending, Portable Hole, Static Prison, a couple of other white removal spells, so there's really no reason to reach for Patriar's Humiliation, but this is a really interesting one that I wanted to shout. Dedicated Dollmaker is actually such a cool card. If you saw my really recent video where I tried to build Survival of Fittest combo in Timeless, I reached for this card specifically. This is classically a pretty played card in the format, though it's fallen off lately because midrange has fallen off because it's friends with these cards above me. Classic Overlord of the Baelmerk flicker thing, just like how in Modern or other formats you're going to flicker Overlord of the Baelmerk with either Ophelia or a Flicker Wisp. You're going to do it with Dollmaker and Timeless, except Dollmaker, it's 1 mana cheaper than the Flicker Wisp, and it doesn't have to attack like Ophelia. It has a lot of really interesting upside to it, too, because it makes the card come back as a token. So you're going to realize that there's a lot of interesting play patterns. Obviously, it has the little bit of text here, tokens gain indestructible, blah, blah, blah. But that's actually not the interesting part about it. If you put this in a mid-range deck with Renegade Rallier, for example, this was very commonly played alongside Renegade Rallier and Birthing Ritual lists. You dedicated Dollmaker, hit the Renegade Rallier. The Renegade Rallier is going to re-enter as a token with Revolt. You can buy back another Dollmaker from the graveyard and keep chaining. It's pretty cool stuff. Or just when Rallier enters, buy back Dollmaker, start your chain. Really cool interaction. Ocelot Pride can also copy the tokens. So this mid-range Birthing Ritual deck that I was describing also played Guide Pride as well, and you would have these crazy go-off turns where you would have Renegade Rallier be flickered by your Dollmaker, come back, return something else, make something else into a token, make Ocelot Pride itself into the token. Ocelot Pride would see the token copy of itself, copy the token copy of itself, and then you get a ridiculous board state. Really, really fun to play with. Another little edge case that I like to point out with this is interaction with flip cards, such as the Modern Horizons flip blockers that are very common. If you Dollmaker your opponent's Tameo, it makes it so that it's unable to flip, and actually the flip on Tameo is a must, it's not a may. So if your opponent brainstorms, their Tameo just goes bye-bye. The token just exiles itself and it doesn't come back. And you could exile your opponent's a Johnny in an emergency to turn it into a token, but they're going to get another 2/1, so you don't do that too frequently. But the more you play with this card, the more you realize it has some really interesting edge cases. If your opponent has a Chrome Mox in play, you can just flicker their Chrome Mox really quickly and force them to re-imprint and go -1 card in hand. It's it's really cool, really interesting, and it's like the kind of card that every time I put it into a deck, I discover like a cool little edge case that I didn't realize existed before, and it's always a fun time to play with this card, and it's legitimately powerful. Like it's a 2 mana Flicker Wisp. If we had Aether Vial in this format, this would be an amazing card. I would love to give this thing flash with Aether Vial, but Aether Vial is a card that they have yet to add to Arena, which I miss very, very dearly. All right, Saint Elenda maybe should have been the first card in the white Alchemy video, just because it's the most commonly played out of all of these, even more than like Fragment Reality and Dollmaker. This is a very common reanimate target in the format. The generic reanimate targets you see in almost every deck are this one and Atraxa. And on first read, the card might not be that crazy, so let's like actually read it carefully together. So 4/7 lifelink, when it enters the battlefield, conjure a card. Oh no, Alchemy. From Saint Elenda's spellbook into your hand. It's okay. The Alchemy haters have left the video by now. We don't have to say, oh no, Alchemy, whenever we conjure something. You may cast the card this turn without paying its mana cost. So a lot of Alchemy haters say that's like too cognitively complex of a task. Like, and I agree. After playing like Slay the Spire recently, I really love simplistic cards like Fragment Reality. But this isn't that complicated because if you look at the spellbook, all the cards are like really similar up here. They are all cards that gain 4 life and give you an effect. So gain 4 life, Faith Spreader is a permanent. We know what Faith Spreaders does. Gain 4 life, make a 3/2. Gain 4 life, blow up an artifact or enchantment. Gain 4 life, draw a card. So you're just choosing one of those of your choice with Saint Elenda. And it's that versatility that puts Saint Elenda over the top, as well as the last line of text. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, create an XX avatar to creature token where X is the amount of life you gained. So you reanimate this, you grab the Inspiring Cleric, unless you have something to remove. You play that, it's a 3/2, and then you also get a 4/4 off of the life gain. So people like to call this a board state in a box, right? You just instantly have a big board state, including the really big Elenda. That Elenda has lifelink, so it's going to keep powering its own abilities that attacks. It's also incredibly good with Sorin, Imperious Bloodlord. Sorin is not really playable in older formats. I think it was very good in like Pioneer with Fane Ripper for a while, but it's not something you'll see in like high-powered formats, so you might wonder why it's here in Timeless. Well, partially is because Saint Elenda is an amazing cheat target, so much better than Fane Ripper, but because it's like a really good backup for Entomb Reanimate Dark Ritual decks, right? If you're an Entomb Reanimate deck, you get Host by Graveyard Hate really easily. Oh, you can't have your busted starts with those cards, but you could also go Dark Ritual, Sorin, Elenda. Elenda herself can get Invoke the Divine and blow up the Leyline. And then you can keep cooking. So it's like this backup plan that just like slots into the deck so cleanly. The opportunity cost of running those Sorins is not that high. You are a deck that's stacked with tutors, right? This is a format where you have 4 Vampiric Tutor legal now, as well as Demonic Tutor, as well as whatever else you were playing before this. This goes in the Necropotence decks as well. You can see like how Saint Elenda really like bridges everything together, because like Vampiric Tutor, Reanimate, Necropotence, Necrodominance, they all lose you life. Elenda gains some of the life back and lets you keep cooking. When you have Sorin and Elenda together in play, Sorin can like buff up the Inspiring Cleric or the 4/4 to give it lifelink to get you even more life and get you an even bigger avatar on your next step. It's a very strong card. It's a beatable card. Like if you Swords to Plowshares it with the ETB trigger on the stack, they don't get the 4/4 avatar, they just get the 1 card. But it's still like always at least a 2-for-1, right? Because you got the extra card off of Elenda. And it's a beatable card if you don't Swords to Plowshares it immediately. Like I killed this card multiple times with Energy a few turns after it's hit the battlefield. Energy is one of the few fair decks that can actually grind through it. Like I just did it on video recently and people were saying wow, and I'm like, no, if you play enough Timeless, you can grind through this card occasionally, but this does beat most board states in the format. All right, that was a long yaps. Elenda is important. Sigardian Evangel. Sigardian, sorry. This is the kind of card when you read it, like it goes infinite with a hand sandwich. When Sigardian Evangel enters, conjure another card named Sigardian Evangel into your hand. You have to discard that card at the beginning of your end step. When it enters, tap a permanent you don't control. Okay, so if you have any way to get mana from this, such as Food Chain is the obvious one, you play this for 2 mana, you get 3 mana off the Food Chain, and then you can like you get infinite mana with this, which is really cool, and it's also infinite board state. Because at a certain point, like let's say you get infinite mana, you can just stop sacrificing your Evangels to Food Chain and then just play infinite Evangels with your infinite mana. Another thing it goes infinite with is Primal Prayers, if you have like a Guide to Souls in play. This was a cool combo deck I played a while ago. It's not like good in the current format, but what's neat is you can flash them out on your opponent's end step, because Primal Prayers gives flash and it taps your opponent's board down. So even if you had a limited amount of energy, you could still make like 5 Evangels on end step, tap their board, swing for lethal because it's got 3 power, which is pretty neat. It's just like a perpetually like busted combo card that you should look to. There's the Paper Eldrazi that does the same thing, but it's a 3 mana card, whereas this is a 2 mana 3/1 that has a little bit of utility on it that can, slot into your aggro deck a little bit more cleanly. So this is a broken combo card to look for. This is a cool one. This is a really cool hate bear. Angel of Eternal Dawn. When it enters, it becomes day. It can't become night. Who gives a shit? Your opponents can't cast spells with mana value greater than the number of turns they began. That is the interesting line of text here. So imagine you're playing like Legacy or Vintage and your opponent is on like Initiative Stompy and they go like Ancient Tomb Chrome Mox this thing on their first turn. That actually like slows down a lot of opposing decks, right? Like you're playing Vintage and you don't have a removal spell for this, you do have to like wait for 4 turns to cast your Paradoxical Outcome, for example. And in Timeless, that's what this became. You can't like Dark Ritual into a Necropotence. When this was played as a sideboard card, you couldn't do those aggressive explosive plays with fast mana, which is pretty cool, right? It's like a similar to the paper card Clarion Conqueror. I'm always mirrored. I always get confused. Clarion Conqueror is like a pretty similar like 3-drop that you could slam off of the Ancient Tomb that randomly shuts off a lot of your opponent's things. I haven't seen Angel of Eternal Dawn as a sideboard card in a while, but it's one to be aware of and one to include into your deck in case there ends up being like a deck that's like very consistently cheating on mana that enters the battlefield and you're playing like a stompy strategy that could throw this out really early. Thought Partition's a really cool one. I love the design of this. It's just a little underpowered for the format. It's white Thoughtseize. Target opponent reveals all 9 land cards in their hand. You may choose one. If you do, it perpetually becomes white and its mana cost becomes 5. That's really cool, right? It's cool that you have a discard spell that doesn't like put something in the graveyard. So for example, if you Thought Partition your opponent and they have like reanimate Atraxa as their cards in hand, you could like you aren't like forced to send the Atraxa into the bin or something like that. Of course. Though Thought Partitioning an Atraxa has the downside of making it castable for 5 generic mana. So it's like that's an example of where this card could backfire. 5 generic mana is not too steep of a cost, unfortunately, and the card's unplayable, right? Like if your opponent has a show and tell in their hand and then you make it cost 5 instead of 3, they're just gonna like wait a turn and cast it for 5 instead of 3. Like you're not breaking your opponent's back with this card. It doesn't do enough, but it is a really cool design that I wanted to shout. We do technically have mono white discard in the format, and I think that's pretty sick. Divine Purge is cool. I think this card fell off since they printed Wrath of the Skies a little bit after they printed this. It used to do a really similar thing. It's still like a great way to clean up an energy board state, but it's got like this really interesting text where your opponents can recast their stuff for 2 mana more. You also can recast your stuff, which is interesting. Stalwart Realmwarden is like such a cool one. I'm like laughing because I remember the deck that used to play this, the mono white like blink, almost like prison style deck. So when this enters the battlefield, the next non-creature spell your opponent casts costs 2 more, and this stacks as many times as you flicker the stupid thing. So people would like bounce it with Philia and Essence Reliquary and just like really tick off their opponents. And if you're playing against like a show and tell player and you're able to bounce this a couple times, you actually will lock them out of the game. They will not be able to pay the tax if you could bounce this every single turn, right? If you get to a point where they can't pay the tax and then you keep bouncing it, they will never catch up. Never. Which is really funny. Oh, this is this background image for the day. This is Monastery Mentor. Please show this card to someone who hates alchemy cards and ask them what they don't like about this. It's Monastery Mentor. It puts the Monastery Mentor onto the battlefield when you cast the non-creature spell. This is gas. This is great. It's like the coolest card ever. If you try to play this in Timeless, I have endless respect for you, even though it's like a 4-drop that you'll probably die trying to cast. It's so cool, dude. It's Monastery Mentor. It's awesome. Yeah, and I like alchemy designs like this that just like reference other cards, because if you notice, they actually started doing that in paper a little bit. Like there's a commander card that said make a Tarmogoyf token, something like that. I think that's fine and a good level of cognitive complexity to put on cards, because like if you're playing an Eternal format like this, you actually know what a Monastery Mentor is, right? Like you don't have to have that explained to you. So I like cards like this. I like them, and they're easier to do in digital because the computer will remember the details for you. This is a really cool like Hate Bears card. It's not powerful enough to see that play in the format right now, but like if they printed this into Legacy, I'm sure like Phil Gallagher, aka Thraven, you would like run to his computer and like try to make this the D&C video with it. Like it's just a cool card. It's a cool thing that like I wish you could do in paper, right? But you can't do this in paper with hidden information. I think it's sweet. This is another one that involves some amount of hidden information. Cottontail Caretaker, remember the offspring mechanic from Plumeburrow. When this enters, you can choose a card in your hand. It has to be specifically a white creature, and you can give it offspring 1. This is obviously broken with Modern Horizons energy creatures. Yay! We did it! We broke the energy creatures. We did it! Yay! Everybody clap! Everybody clap! Everybody clap! Yeah, I mean, Ocelot Pride, I talked about Dollmaker before and how Ocelot Pride very favorably interacts with token copies of itself, so you can enable that interaction by playing this card. This didn't shake out to be meta, but it's a cool card, and I like how they give us effects like this. Inquisitor Captain is another cool one. When this enters the battlefield, if you cast it and there are 20 more or more creature cards with mana value 3 or less in your graveyard, hand, or library, seek 2 creature cards with mana value 3 or less, put one of them onto the battlefield. So this has like a deck building restriction, kind of like a companion, and I actually like really love this, and I kind of wish they would make more alchemy cards like this. It's been a couple years, and I can't remember any recent ones that had this sort of templating. Like how Yorian says, oh, you have to have 80 cards in your deck. This says you have to have 20 creatures in your starting deck. It pretty much means that without actually saying that, right? Because it counts your graveyard, your hand, and your library. And I think it's cool that they sort of built a deck building restriction into this card. It's a safety valve, right? Because if it seeks creatures, and if there was only one creature with mana value 3 or less in your battlefield or in your library, it would always seek that exact one. Oh, that reminds me. I actually forgot. I forgot about Fragment Reality, the first card. I wanted to say how this card used to be broken. So originally, Fragment Reality, when they first printed it, it didn't say an opponent controls. You could hit your own stuff with it. You could hit your own stuff, and it was broken in half because you could turn 1, put Leyline of Sanctity into play, and then fragment it. It doesn't sound that crazy in an Eternal format, but if you only have 1 3-drop in your deck, you're going to guaranteed tutor it every single time, and that was very silly until they errated the card. Okay, back to this guy. I like the deck building restriction here. This didn't shake out to be like good enough for decks in Timeless, but like when they first added Ancient Tomb, I reached for this card and I tried to build some decks with it. You could put some banger 3-drops in the deck and then, maybe get some value. I like it. It's cool. I also like the templating on this. I kind of wish that there were more alchemy cards like this that kind of have a deck building restriction, like a companion almost, in order to work. I think it's good design space. 3-Tree Battalion is a very similar card. This is a direct riff on Collected Company. You look at your top 6, you get to pick your creature card with mana value 3 or less, just 1 instead of 2, and you get it and a copy of it that's perpetually a 1/1. So this is obviously once again broken with your Modern Horizons energy creatures such as Ajani, because you can instantly legend roll your Ajani and flip him. If there are any creative individuals in the chat who would like to suggest a non-Modern Horizons card to copy, please let me know. I'm creatively bankrupt. Oh, Awestruck Cygnet. Dude, they nerfed this card. This was such a cool card. And this could be an awesome card in like a blue-white Tempo Delver style deck. Like this was pretty much white Delver when they first printed it, and they nerfed it quite a bit. So it says starting intensity 0. Whenever another creature you control with flying enters, if this creature is named Awestruck Cygnet, all cards you own named Cygnet intensify by 1. That includes ones in your library, by the way. As long as this creature's intensity is 3 or more, it becomes a 4/4 with flying and vigilance against Steam Radiance 1. So that's really cool. A Savannah Alliance that can upgrade to a 4/4. It reminds me of Delver of Secrets. And you're going to put it in your blue-white tempo deck where you have Tamiyo and Hydroponics. So you can actually like trigger this really, really easily. And what it originally did is that it didn't say another. So it could trigger off of itself, which is kind of crazy. And it also became a 5/4. So they errated it. They made it a little bit worse, which was kind of sad. But man, I wish they didn't nerf this. This would have been like such a cool card to play in blue-white tempo. If you occasionally see somebody playing this in like a blue-white Delver style deck, you know why. This is pretty much white Delver. I think it's a cool design. Ooh, this one. This enables Hammer Time. This is a broken, just like if you wanted to build modern Hammer Time in this format, you reach for this. When this enters, choose an equipment in your hand. It gets equip 1 perpetually. Equipment you control gets equip 1. Nice use of the perpetual mechanic. Also, I like how it looks into both your hand and the battlefield. I like how, it's a digital card, so you don't have to reveal the card out of your hand. It just does it privately while keeping the hidden information. That's pretty cool, in my opinion. Mothlight Processionist. So this is like the white alchemy card that, like, when you read it, it feels like it should be broken with something, right? Let's read it. Enchantment spells you cast have convoke. Okay, that's mana cheating. Whenever an enchantment enters, or whenever you fully unlock a room, who cares about rooms? This was a Duskmourn thing. Forget about the rooms. Whenever an enchantment enters, conjure a card named Mothlight Processionist into your hand. And you have to discard it at the end step like Sigardian Evangel. Okay, so I feel like this should go infinite with a ham sandwich, how it's written, right? Because it can make copies of itself and it can cheat on mana. But, like, I have not identified the correct flavor of ham sandwich to actually break this card. Does anybody know? Like, I don't think the card that goes infinite with this exists, but I read this and I can't help but think that eventually they're gonna print some, like, stupid enchantment that flickers itself that breaks this. Like, it's just gotta happen, right? Right? I trust WotC to break the format. This one. This, this is the kind of card that, like, Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive on the internet, would absolutely love and play. I bet if you go to the Goldfish channel, he has a video playing this. I bet you $50. It's there. I haven't seen it, but I know it's there. It's Soul Flare, but for your library, which is really cool. So it looks at your top 7, and then it steals the keywords from all those creatures. Pretty cool. And you could totally, like, print this in paper, right? Because it looks at the top 7 and then shuffles. Like, you could do this in paper. Like, if Soul Flare is a paper card, then this can be a paper card too. There's just, like, a little bit of a memory problem in paper. Like, you would probably want to do it with counters, right? You would say, oh, it gets a first strike counter if it has first strike, and then put the counters on it so you could remember, rather than just, like, doing the perpetual thing, because Soul Flare exiles the card, so that's how you remember. You exile it under the Soul Flare, and then you remember what keywords you have. So anyway, cool card. I have seen somebody try to play this in Timeless before. Did it work well? I think they won some amount of games. I think they did. But that was a while ago. And it's just a fun card. I think this is the last one in the presentation, unless I'm forgetting. It in fact is. So here's the white cards for Alchemy. That was a good 20 minutes. It's a good runtime. Let me know if there's any ones that I forgot, because there are like 100 plus Alchemy cards exclusive to Arena in each color. And then I grabbed like the top 20-ish that I think are playable, or at least good to know in Timeless. Like, not all of these are playable. I don't know if Stalwart Realmwarden is like playable in 2026, but it's a cool one to know, right? You guys enjoyed learning about the little combo and how we BTFO'd show and tell players once upon a time. Captain Eberhart, I can't remember the last time I saw this played, but it's cool. It's human tribal, dude. You can play your human tribal. Actually, I saw Dem play one copy of this. I take that back. Dem, my goat, he put like a copy or 2 of this in like his humans deck. Forgot about that one. Yeah, another human here. There's so many cool cards, right? Like, you can see why I like alchemy cards, and I think they're generally like really cool, because they do things with like hidden information that usually paper cards can't do, or they make things like really easy that would be really hard to track in paper, or they use like the perpetual mechanic like really interestingly, like this card. This card's so interesting. I think this is a beautiful, elegant card design, in my opinion. All right, let me know. Let me know what you think about these alchemy cards if I forgot one, and I hope I see you playing some Timeless, because this format is kick-ass.